Hi everybody, just got through taking a sauna, 24-hour fitness, Westfield Mall, Carlsbad, California, just to give you a perspective of where I'm at. I want to talk real quickly about small business website solutions, and one of the issues I want to talk about is proprietary software versus open source software. And I'm not going to take sides on which one is better or worse than the other, because they both have their advantages and disadvantages. But I'll give you a little bit of information about this. I'm a developer. I always use open source software. Example, WordPress, versus something like a GoDaddy web builder. I built a lot of websites with GoDaddy, a Web Builder 6. I don't know where they're at as far as their version is concerned. And let me explain the difference. Proprietary software is software where it's very limited in what you can do with it. And forgive me if some of this isn't correct because I haven't kept up with GoDaddy, but for instance, if you build a GoDaddy website, you're not going to have a blog on that website because it's not built into the code. And there's no way to code it. Maybe there is, but I don't think there's a way to code it for a blog. So you're really limited in the scope of what you can do with the website like that, because you can't go in there and actually change the code because it's on GoDaddy server. Versus something like WordPress, where you can go in and you can change the code, or you can alter the code or add code, or you can do what they call plugins, or you can, of course there's blogs already attached to it. That's what WordPress is all about, was a blogging software. But there's a lot of things you can do with open source software that you can't do with something like GoDaddy. And here's the advantage. The advantage of GoDaddy, something like GoDaddy, is easy, it's quick, it's simple. You're not going to get hacked because it's on GoDaddy servers, so it's going to be a very safe website. And it's going to be easy. You're not going to have to know how to do anything. All you need to do is, add some text to it, maybe upload some pictures, and pull and drag and drop and do whatever they ask you to do. Wix is the same way. Squarespace, all these proprietary softwares, versus something like WordPress. Now, when I develop a website, I do it either one or two ways. Either we do a WordPress for a small site, or if we do something bigger or something a little more complicated, we do it with the code, which is PHP. Generally PHP. If I do it myself, it's Ruby on Rails, because I like David Heinemeier Hansen. He's one of the guys that really, when I started learning about this, was one of the people I thought really told us, the real truth about, coding and software and how the internet works. But the thing about it is if you got open source software, anybody can work on it. So if you fire your developer, you can get somebody else to work on it. The negatives to that is that you're probably not going to be able to build a WordPress site yourself. You may be able to update it or add information through the blogs, but it's going to be really, unless you're good at this stuff and you do it all the time, you're probably not going to build the greatest site. So you're going to have to hire somebody to do that. Versus GoDaddy, it's going to be real simple, real easy, and you pay them a monthly and everything like that. The negative side of GoDaddy is the fact that it's very limited in what you can do with the site. The other negative about that site, something like that, is it's not going to be search engine friendly, as search engine friendly as like an open source WordPress. Google, for instance, loves WordPress because it's easy search. It's the way their search robots work. It works really well with a site like WordPress, because it's already got the sitemap involved. The H1, H2, H3 tags are all there. Everything's set up really well for it to be searched by the search engine, so it gets a really good search placement. So that's the positive thing about having an open source site. There's a lot of positives and negatives, but for anybody that's really serious about a website, you really should consider doing open source. You should never consider, something that's proprietary, because it's limited. It's always going to be limited. The thing about open source sites or open source, and we got to talk about CMSs, content management system, versus code. It's two different things. A content management system would be like the container, or like the framework to the website, which would be WordPress. The code would be like PHP, would be Ruby on Rails, would be JavaScript, would be Java, would be HTML. All that's coding language. So that's all something that's very, very easy to do on an open source site, versus something that's would be a little bit less able to manage on a closed-in site, versus the search engines and everything like that. So we always use open source. I think open source is the wave of the future. I'm going to make another video a little bit about an open source world. I mean, I think that's the direction it's going. I'm going to talk about applications, and I'm going to talk about the using scalability, which is using the cloud versus using a host like GoDaddy. I mean, there's advantages to using the cloud. It's a little more complicated, but there's also it's a lot harder to use. I mean, there's a lot more advantages to doing that. But always consider using an open source program, because there's developers around the world that are making that code better every day. For instance, in WordPress, anybody can add to that code. They can make it better. They can develop stuff for it, and it's free. It's free. It's all free. The internet for the most part is free. Coding is free, and the connection between computers is free. So why should we not have an open source internet, open source system, so that anybody can add to it, develop plugins that integrate into a content management system like WordPress, develop better code, better themes. I can always tell by looking at a site who made the site. If it's a site that's a newer theme, updated theme, because it's updated, it's always being improved. There's better themes always coming out with WordPress. So I hope I didn't get too deep into this, because it always seems like I get deep into this stuff, because it does get to be a little bit complicated. It's not like people grew up with this stuff. You had to kind of learn it, or because in my generation, people didn't know this stuff, and I think the only people that really know this stuff today are the younger generation, because they grew up with it. But just keep in mind, it's really for small businesses. If you want to get serious about the internet, you got to do something with the open source code, open source platform, open source content management system. Better to me than it is with the closed system. If you want easy, if you want fast, if you just need to have a page up and you don't want to hassle, you're not worried about search engine placement, by all means, use a proprietary site. GoDaddy's a good one. Wix, Squarespace, all those places. They make good websites. They got their advantages to do that. You're not going to have to worry about getting hacked. You're not going to have to worry about learning how to do code. You're not going to have to worry about hiring somebody to work on the site. It's real easy, and they got great support, and they'll probably take care of you. So it's just apples and oranges. They're two different things, and it's just whatever fits for whatever you are doing. So I appreciate you listening. Like I say, I hope it didn't get too deep. It's not really that complicated when you just think about it or search a little bit about it. But all that information's online. I'm just trying to make it a little bit, so people kind of get some feel for what it is that may be the best solution for them. So I appreciate you listening. Thank you.